All right, let's go to the fun part now of our discussion. Um, Jimmy, tell us a little bit about your professional background.
I'm a CPA and have been so for about 40 years. Bachelor's and master's degree in taxation. Worked for a large international, at that time, Big Eight, now Big Four CPA firm. And had lots of wonderful experience, but that's primarily working with listed SEC type companies, which is never, I'm not a very corporate sort of guy. I'm more of an entrepreneurial value creation person. And I've incorporated that not just into my professional practice. I've had 20 or 30 separate businesses that I've been involved with as an investor or creator, officer, investor, and such that my personal wealth is primarily from non-professional practice. So I've owned restaurants, shopping centers, apartments, even a detective agency, which was interesting one time. And so I guess I approach things with a little different view than most CPAs or tax attorneys who've really never been in business before. And so, like Miles, I'll illustrate that like with your background. You're a CPA as well as an attorney. Your background as a CPA fits lovely with your work as a divorce attorney. You know the questions to ask and what to look for that someone with a political science degree, not to slam our political science attorneys here, would never even know to ask because you've been in the trenches of asking these details. And so that's what I enjoy with my practice. My practice is international and throughout the country. I'd say about a third of my practice is local. The rest of it is throughout the country and in about 20 foreign countries. So it's the routine for me to be trying to schedule a client phone call or Zoom meeting in Australia, or having someone local pop by for a meeting of the officers in my room here, or to have cocktails in the evening with clients, or having someone fly in from Alberta, like happened yesterday, to who was in the local area to buy property, and we met, and they're now a client. So that's a typical day for me, and that it opens up the possibilities for to ask about things that other people don't even know where to start from, because I've probably done it with my own money and in my own life, and you tend to pay attention when it's your own money. And I've been in more than a few business disputes personally, and I've testified many, many, many times as an expert witness. And so I approach it from a healthy professional skepticism that I find that many of my other tax colleagues simply take the number from one piece of paper and put it on another piece of paper. So, in fact, what we're doing right now in this type of work is just about the cream of the cream of what I like to do. It's creative, value is being creative. We're serving our clients, and in the larger sense, justice is being done because the party that didn't even know assets, like in these lawsuits we're speaking of, now they realize these are large assets and people can be taken care of well, and the equitable thing be done for all parties.
Fabulous. What is your proudest professional accomplishment?
Let's see, what would be with this case? There was a tax court case that I argued, and I'm not an attorney, so there was an attorney of record, but I essentially, did all the professional work on it. And it was a client of mine who had a severely autistic child. And these were middle income people, upper middle income people, and they loved their child very, very, very much. But this was a special needs child. and nothing worked. All the therapy and drugs and hypnosis, and they went through everything in the world until finally they had a psychologist that suggested them what I thought was quackery at the first, called equine therapy, horse therapy. And the theory of this was that the child, this was like a 12-year-old little girl who could barely speak and had all types of behavioral issues, would have repetitive tasks of caring for the horse and having something that happens between a horse and an autistic child in that process. Now, that jumping forward, that 12-year-old girl, when I first met them, is now 22 and will be graduating college this year. Now speaks. The behavioral issues, well, while still there, are much better. Unfortunately, any of you that have had horses know that horses are ridiculously expensive. Mom and dad were spending approximately $200,000 a year on horses, trainers, shows, all of the above. And the question was, can you deduct that 200,000 as a medical expense? Apparently, the tax court agreed with us. And so it was unproven science, but it was something of an emotional appeal, which always helps, as you litigators know. But it was well argued, and I was able to really change that family's life. And this 12-year-old girl who now is about to graduate college, who is barely functionable by using the existing rules to work within the system and to simply think differently than everyone else was thinking. That was fun.
Now, Jimmy, if you could share a meal with three people, alive or dead, who would they be?
Okay. Well, the first was a childhood hero of mine, Alexander the Great, that united for the first time ever the West and the East and conquered the known world. But beyond being a great military hero, created commerce all the way from Europe to Afghanistan, and essentially created a common market before we had a common market, and completely changed the arc of the world. I would love to sit down and get rip roaring drunk with Alexander and talk about his worldview. So that would be number one. Number two would be not for the reasons many people would think, but it would be Jesus of Nazareth. And I'm not dwelling on the religious nature of it, which would be a whole other reason for wanting this. But again, a man who, through his teachings, changed the world and set the world so that, everything that we happen, how we keep a calendar, to how we govern ourselves, to what we consider to be right and wrong, everything from taxation. Most people don't know that Jesus was actually a celebrated tax authority, so that when it was asked of him, should we pay taxes to Caesar? He said, you should give unto Caesar what is Caesar and to give to God which is God's. So Jesus, it's little known, was actually practicing tax planning in the first century there, a certain hero of mine, but he pulled the world together. And then my third hero was Charlemagne, the first Roman Empire, post-Roman Empire fall, that once again, and you'll see a theme to these things, united Europe for the first time since the fall of the Roman Empire. Created, one civil authority of learning, of taxation, of commerce, so that the first time since the fall of Rome that you could have commerce all the way from Spain, all the way through Gaul to Italy into Germania, and essentially created the modern world as we know. And with all three of these, I would really enjoy this with a nice Cabernet and maybe a Cuban Monte Cristo and we would have a wonderful evening together. Miles, do you think you'd like to come to this event? I probably could get you an invite.
We'd have to see. I got a busy schedule. Okay. Let's be clear. Uh, so but this interview is about you, Jimmy, not about me. It's about you.
Okay.
All right. On a personal level, somebody who works with you, what would shock them to learn about you on a personal level?
Oh, I tend to have a little bit of a reputation as being a little bit can I use colorful language in Miles, or is this going to be censored or
I
anything?
would avoid colorful language at all costs.
Oh my gosh. Let's just say some people think that I'm a little arrogant, a little bit of an SOB, a little full of myself. And sometimes I really might think that I'm the smartest guy in the room, because I usually am the smartest guy in the room. But beyond that, uh, what they don't know is that I'm ridiculously confident. I am ridiculously, I am a little arrogant, but it didn't just come by magic. When I walk into a courtroom and I'm going to testify, I may testify for 3 hours one afternoon, and there's been 30 hours of preparation to get that 3 hours in. I've always had essentially a 10-to-1 ratio for when I'm presenting, the amount of preparation time for when you're doing it. So I'm ridiculously prepared. I'm ridiculously focused, and generally a pretty good, nice guy after I've had a couple of scotches.
Nice. All right. Last question. If somebody watching this video was interested in wanting to speak with you, what would you tell them about who do you want to speak with?
I want to talk with people who can benefit from my services, who are willing to not do things the normal way, to look beyond it. And someone who, if they're looking for simply a bookkeeper, someone to put numbers down on the page, that's probably not me. But if someone is willing to listen, to be open to new ideas, that's probably who I want to talk to. These tend to be relatively affluent people who can afford my services and most benefit from my services. I do pro bono work as requested from time to time, but it's someone who has a relatively complex situation that could benefit from a high level of service. I'm not your corner neighborhood CPA. That's not what I am looking for. And many times, a relatively short amount of time, as we've talked about with losses or a quick review of return, gives lots of information that someone didn't even know existed. So I can, I guess my record speaks of it than of my clients. We retain about 99.9% of clients from year to year. When I meet with a consulting attorney or a new client, the retention rate of after the initial interview with them is approximately 98%. And I keep very good records of this. And so those things do not happen unless there's value being given. So I'd love the chance to talk with you. And if it's a jail, it's great. If it's not, we'll depart as friends and go get a scotch at the bar.
Beautiful. Jimmy, it's been a great experience talking to you as always. I appreciate it and thank you. Thank you.
I enjoyed it.